Week 2 of high school football is in the books in Tennessee, Week 1 in the books for Southwest Virginia. Welcome back to the Sports Huddle. I'm J.D. Vaughn alongside Andrew Smith, Brian Woodson, Jeff Birchfield with us in spirit today, but he'll be back next week. We'll recap all the action from Week 2, and let's take a look at Week 3. Right now, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Lazy J Farms Old Fashioned Butcher Shop.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle and all-natural pork for 3 generations on the family farm in Fall Branch. Their blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef. And the butcher shop is local, farm to table, and 100% authentic. This is the way your grandfather shopped for me, with steaks cut to order, quality assured, and ready to ship to your door. Open Thursday through Saturday on Bloomingdale Road in Kingsport. Come see us.
Nothing flashy for Dobyns-Bennett in Week 2. The Indians get the win, 21-7 over Asheville. So yes, they do avenge a loss from a year ago. But honestly, nothing fancy about it. Luke Lundy, Emmett Starnes. Lundy reaches the 100-yard mark. Starnes gets a touchdown, rushes for 81. Levi Chappell, another solid game at quarterback. Dobyns-Bennett, if they can run the ball down your throat, then that's exactly what they're going to do, and they're going to stick with it, and they're not going to get away from it. Corday Moore, another big game on defense. 3 sacks in the fourth quarter. Asheville minus 13 yards rushing in the second half. Dobyns-Bennett 2-0, first time in 3 years that they've done that. Brian Woodson, speaking of 2-0, West Ridge is 2-0, so gets the 41-10 win at David Crockett. Only 1 pass thrown in the entire game.
Yeah, Westridge is really running the ball well. Ethan Amick has had a terrific season already in 2 games. He's put on some pounds and some strength since last year and is really playing well. And the offensive line, even though they lost Trent Tatum to ETSU, they've been blocking well. Justice Hilton hasn't had his road ball, I think, 3 times in 2 games because the running games work so well. But he has the capability of throwing the ball, and he also can pass it if he needs to.
3 passes thrown the entire season for West Ridge. In the year 2025, that's just unheard of, Brian. And also in 6A, Science Hill gets the win at Morristown West, 41-12. The Hilltoppers pull away in the second half. 237 yards passing for senior quarterback Lane Clement. Ian Mathis goes over the 100-yard mark. Nalik Anderson, once again, a big game for him, a couple of touchdowns. So Science Hill also 2-0. So we got a 3-way tie at 2-0 at the top of Region 1-6A. Now, of course, they start their conference play later in the year, but Science Hill gets the big win at Morristown West. Andrew, we go over to Carter County. A couple of big games there on back-to-back nights. First of all, Lane Parker scoring in 3 different ways. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, Lane Parker had himself one heck of a night on Thursday night against Cloudland. Him and the Warriors took care of business 55-20. If we're being honest, it wasn't even that close. It was 55-6 at halftime. So just taking care of business. Lane Parker, a couple rushing touchdowns, a punt return touchdown, a pick 6. And I don't know if you do much more else than that if you're Lane Parker, but it wasn't just him. Keelan Relford, the former Volunteer Falcon, had a very solid day in the backfield, and quarterback Gabe McDougald, threw it a few times, wasn't asked to throw it much, but he was perfectly efficient doing it. Ran a little bit himself as well. So, just a very strong game for Happy Valley, looking like one of the best teams, especially in Region 1-2A, the 14 conference there.
Absolutely, and the only 2-0 team in that conference, let me add.
Yeah.
Speaking of Thursday night, Unicoi County gets the win in overtime at Northview Academy. Final score 29-27. Colby Jones, another 200-yard passing game for him. Avery Hatcher, 5 catches for more than 100 yards once again. Clearly he's emerging as Jones' new favorite target. Jones actually ran for a couple of touchdowns, the second one in overtime, and then the 2-point conversion, which ended up being the difference. Unicoi County off to a 2-0 start. Andrew, speaking of 2-0 starts, the Hampton Bulldogs. They are the only undefeated team in Region 1-1A after Friday night. And how did they take care of business against Johnson County?
Yeah, it was another classic Hampton-Johnson County matchup on Friday. It's a series that for years and years, whoever's run the ball better has won that football game, and it was the case again on Friday. Hampton ran for over 240 yards while limiting Johnson County to around 20, especially when you take into account sacks. So, it was just a very strong overall performance for Hampton. Peyton Townsend, Isaiah Belcher, two lead backs, both had solid days. But really, it was Connor McKinney, the quarterback for Hampton, that really stood out to me. Threw for 3 touchdowns, which you think Hampton, you don't necessarily think throwing. He didn't throw it a lot, but when he did, he was very effective. 2 of those touchdowns went to Brock Shelby, the former Elizabethan Cyclone. But he also ran for one as well. But just overall, the Hampton defense looked very solid against the Johnson County run game. Juan Mejia, the standout running back for Johnson County, 12 carries, 25 yards. If you're able to limit Juan Mejia to that, you've got a really good chance to win the football game. They did that, and Hampton certainly a true contender, and not just Region 1 1A, but I would say the general class of Single A.
Oh, yeah. And Brian Woodson, back to Thursday night, Gate City opens its season on the road at Richlands. Obviously, Richlands' passing attack was in full gear, was in full force all night, but the balance of Gate City, quarterback Zane Reed and running back Walker Hillman, Gate City, a very dangerous team.
Yeah, they are. They got more than just Walker Hillman. They got the Corey Bird who can fly. I mean, he can run. They're the catching or running the ball. Parker Jenkins, Caden Houserider, terrific receivers. Max Hillman, Mason Hillman's a terrific fullback and linebacker. So they've got a chance to do pretty good this year. And they held Richland, I think, 25 yards rushing, and obviously Richland had to go to their air because they couldn't run it. So good sign ahead for Gate City.
Yeah. Gate City, of course, going to Dobyns-Bennett this week. We'll talk about that game here in a minute. Daniel Boone, of course, comes up short, Brian, against South Green. Drew Fleming, another night, but Nash Rader and the Rebels just too much.
Yeah, Nash Rader was running all over the place, and they just once they got close there in the third quarter, and he just kept scoring touchdowns, and they just couldn't slow him down. And unfortunately, that losing streak for Daniel Boone just keeps on going.
Yeah, it does. Speaking of streaks, Volunteer, of course, 2-0, first time in 11 years. The Falcons trying for their first ever 3-0 start this week. They get the 50-0 win at Claiborne. Lincoln Wilson and Bryson Christian, just a healthy dose of the two. Cherokee, speaking of healthy doses, Jaden Weston and quarterback Landon Jeffers. The Chiefs get a shutout win themselves, 33-0 over Campbell County. Both teams open conference play this week. Volunteer hosting Granger, and Cherokee taking on Sullivan East. Sullivan East, which came up short against Chucky Doak, 38-21, so the Patriots 0-2. But if there's ever a chance to turn their season around, it's against Cherokee this week. Also in Southwest Virginia, Twin Springs comes up short in its season opener at Northwood. Elizabethton, the Cyclones, after last week's heartbreaker at Science Hill, this time Elizabethton goes on the road to Tennessee High and gets the win, 26-21. Very solid game for Rhett Slagle in the passing game, especially with guys like Zach Wallen and Justin Whitehead. Just a terrific all-around game for the Cyclones. A 26-21 win at Tennessee High. So the Cyclones now 1-1. Speaking of this week, we'll be right back and talk about it. But right now, let's hear a word from Lazy J Farms.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle in all-natural pork for 3 generations. Our blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef that ships from our store directly to your freezer. This is the way your grandfather shot for meat, only now we wrap it, seal it, and send it right to your door. We have plenty of options to pick from, and they're all fresh and natural. Just visit our website at lazyjbeef.com and choose your package. We'll get it straight to you.
It's been 55 years, believe it or not, since Dobyns-Bennett and Gate City have squared off. The last time they played, the Blue Devils won 44-16 up at Legion Field. The Blue Devils went on to win that 1970 state championship in Single A. But it's been 55 years, believe it or not. As close as these teams are, that rivalry gets renewed, so to speak, this Friday at J. Fred Johnson Stadium. But Dobyns-Bennett better not overlook these Gate City Blue Devils. They're going to bring their strong contingent of fans, and they're going to come into this game believing that they're going to win, especially with the guys like with a healthy balance of Zane Reed and Walker Hillman. The Blue Devils might have the ingredients to give Dobyns-Bennett a game in this one.
Luke Lundy, Emma Starnes having a good year in the backfield. I don't see anything that's going to stop that. They're different in some ways. They're similar in some, but they're both very coachable. Both do what we ask them to do, and going to do it to the best of their ability. But one's a little faster than the other. One's one seems to have a little more power and everything, but there's things we still got to do to get better there. But if JD, like I always say, 6A football is a line of scrimmage game, and in these first 2 games, I felt like we've controlled the line of scrimmage. We have to maintain that as we go through. But I think what you're also seeing is our trigger man and our skill guys. Listen, we're okay there too. Don't get lulled into thinking that we can't sling it all over the yard. We can, but if we can establish the run and do that later, that's what we'll do. Those guys are open, and those guys, Reed's able to get them the ball because of Hillman. I mean, they're going to absolutely pound the rock with Hillman between the tackles, and it's kind of, I say that's Gate City's culture. I don't know how many times I've seen them play, to be honest with you, in my life. Not very many, but they have pride in being more physical than other programs, and they are. Their offensive line's the biggest one that we've faced overall, and like you said, Hillman really does a good job of toting the mail, getting it forward, and just gaining 3 yards here, 5 yards there, 3 yards there, first down, and then just redo it, reset it and do it again. On a great atmosphere. We live and thrive in these atmospheres of J-Fred and the packed houses and things like that. So, we're expecting that and hoping that. But we know at 7:05 at game time, it's going to be what happens between those white lines. And listen, they're coming over here and fully expect to kick our tails up and down the field and be more physical and with tougher kids than we have.
It's a huge opportunity for our guys. I mean, you get to go over to the J. Fred Johnson Stadium, which is one of the most iconic stadiums around the area, and you get to play against one of the best 6A schools in the state of Tennessee. And we're grateful for the opportunity. We know what's ahead of us, and we know the task the big mountain we got to try to climb. But hopefully our kids are excited about it. Hopefully this community is excited about it, and hopefully we'll go over there and compete. Walker's he's a hard runner. This is his 3rd year starting, and he'll be the first one to tell you that he couldn't do it without the guys up front. And last week we were able to make some holes for him to get going, and hopefully we can give him a few creases this week. We got to be able to match their physicality up front. I mean, their offensive and defensive line, and their front 7 on defense, and I mean they're just so physical up front. And then you fall asleep in the back end, and their athletes are going to get by you. So we've got to be focused. We got to try to match the physicality if we can, and we got to be focused on the back end and not give up anything big. So it's just something we got to work on and focus on.
Now, Gate City did come to Dobyns Bennett recently. They came there last year, right after Hurricane Helene. Games had to be moved around, of course, and due to a power outage up in Gate City, they had to play Union at J. Fred Johnson Stadium. So Gate City's players, a lot of them are familiar with J. Fred Johnson Stadium at this point, having already played a game there. But this Friday, they get to play the Dobyns Bennett Indians, and given how close the teams are, honestly, I expect a huge crowd there. And speaking of rivalry renewals, Science Hill and Tennessee High meet for the first time since 2014 this week. They meet at the Stone Castle in Bristol.
Just talk about renewing this rivalry at Tennessee High. Been a great rivalry over the years for Science Hill, and now we're back again playing.
Well, we're glad we're back. I mean, it's been a long time and a long time coming. So we're glad we got Bristol back on the schedule. I think it's good when, the Tri-Cities can play each other, Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol. So this is exciting. So, I'm glad we got them back on. Like I say, it's been a long time since we had them. So I think this can hopefully rekindle the rivalry that we've always had with Bristol.
Brian, obviously Science Hill in desperation, or Tennessee High in desperation mode at this point. Science Hill 2-0, but what can we look for in this game?
Tennessee High is really struggling to find playmakers right now. I mean, they were able to make it close against Elizabeth and late in the second half the other night, but they just are struggling. Like I said, the playmakers, they need to find somebody who can make some plays for them. And obviously Science Hill has a lot of playmakers in their end, and they've got a lot of depth, and they probably just bigger school and more people to choose from. They probably got the advantage in this one. Science Hill's been playing pretty well already, and So Tennessee High's just going to have to keep the score low, keep them out of the end zone, and try to squeeze out a win at the end.
Now, some might say that West Ridge might face its first serious test this week. The Wolves on the road at Elizabethton. Andrew, what does West Ridge have to do to start 3-0?
I think the big key for West Ridge in this game is they have to shorten the game. They have to take the air out of the football, which they've done a very good job of here the first 2 weeks of the year. You win both your games, you only throw 3 passes. You're doing a pretty good job of keeping the opponent's offense off the field, and I think that's going to be the biggest key for the Wolves here. Because if you look at this Elizabethton team, yes, they lost week 1 to Science Hill, but it's not because they played badly. Science Hill just made a couple more plays than they did. And, that's football. That happens. But overall, this is an Elizabethton team that can beat you with both the run and the pass, experience all over the field, especially at those skill positions. So, if you're West Ridge, you have to keep the air out of the ball in this first ever meeting between the Wolves and the Cyclones.
In Class 3A, Unicoi County welcomes the third-ranked team in the state, one of its arch nemesis at this point, Gatlinburg-Pittman. Obviously, Gatlinburg-Pittman was the only team, believe it or not, to beat Unicoi County last season. They won the regular season meeting, and then they beat region champion Unicoi County in the second round of the playoffs. Now, of course, this time in 3A, there's no Alcoa on the other side of the bracket, but right now, Unicoi County, their focus has to be on Gatlinburg-Pittman. This will obviously be the Blue Devils' toughest test to this point. Can they make that jump and beat the Highlanders? Johnson County did it last year, so it can be done. But it's going to be a big game for the Blue Devils at Gentry Stadium this Friday. A couple of games crossing state lines this week. Daniel Boone playing at Bullitt Park against the Union Bears in Virginia. Unaka on the road at Twin Springs, kind of a series that's taken off lately. David Crockett on the road at Morristown East. And in Region 1 4A, some big games as they start conference play this week. Sullivan East, like we said, on the road at Cherokee, 2-0 against 0-2. The Patriots in desperation mode, so the ball's going to be in the air a lot between Peyton Lingerfeld and Landon Jeffers. And meanwhile, in Churchill, it's going to be probably the polar opposite. The ball's going to spend a lot of time on the ground between run-heavy Granger and kind of a more balanced Volunteer team. But as we've seen, Lincoln Wilson perfectly capable of throwing the ball. And also don't forget Rye Cove. The War Eagles had their regular season winning streak snapped by Lord Botetourt, the only team that would play them this early in the year. The War Eagles, of course, on the road at Grundy. Happy Valley on the road trying for a 3-0 start. They're visiting the Claiborne Bulldogs this week. That's going to wrap it up for Episode 3 of the Sports Huddle this year. Season 2, Episode 3, I should say. For Andrew Smith and Brian Woodson, I'm J.D. Vaughn. Get out there and enjoy some football, and we'll do this again next week. And thank you once again to Lazy J Farms.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle in all-natural pork for 3 generations. Our blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef that ships from our store directly to your freezer. This is the way your grandfather shot for meat, only now we wrap it, seal it, and send it right to your door. We have plenty of options to pick from, and they're all fresh and natural. Just visit our website at lazyjbeef.com and choose your package. We'll get it straight to you.